Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Advisor with Stacey Chillemi. I'm very excited today because we have Nicola Salter here, and she is an amazing high performance and leadership coach. And she also has a podcast on our channel, so I suggest that you check it out. She has an amazing podcast that will help you in all areas of your life, and she just has a whole bowl of wisdom that to share with you. And today she really wants to talk about the topic of flaws and how they affect us and how to overcome them and really move forward with your life. Nicola, it's such a pleasure to have you here. I love when you come on this show because you have so much great information and suggestions to share with the audience. Can you tell everybody a little about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. It's good to see you again, Stacey. Thank you for having me here. Um, so I'm an empowerment coach. I'm a women's personal and business transformational coach. I help women to feel more empowered in their lives, build more confidence and new directions for themselves. In line with their values and what fulfills them. And oftentimes this goes against what society thinks. And I really help women to pinpoint what it is they're good at.
Mhm.
And oftentimes perhaps what they've been told not to do is often what they should be doing. And
Right.
find the confidence to do that and to build it out with them so that they can find the success they're looking for.
I love that. Can you share a personal story or experience where you came to the point where you were able to accept your own flaws? Because like we were talking about earlier before the show, everyone has flaws. Everybody has flaws. Nobody is perfect. I always get mad when I hear the word perfect because it shouldn't even be in the dictionary because there's no such thing as perfect. But people get caught up on their flaws and it affects them. It affects their life. It affects their confidence. It affects, their ability to perform well and to move forward in life. Just like all of us, I have flaws, you have flaws. How did you get over some of the flaws in your life and you didn't let it affect you to the point where you couldn't really move forward and reach your full potential?
Well, that's a good question. I have many, many flaws. And a flaw means, having an imperfection, or that you make mistakes, and
Mhm.
we all make mistakes. And I remember one of my flaws was not having the confidence to speak up about things that were important to me. And it got to the point where, this is when I was younger, people would just assume that I was okay with certain situations. And I found that I was getting resentful and frustrated, and internalizing a lot that was going on around me because one of my flaws was that I wouldn't speak up. And this flaw had come from a nervousness about speaking up. What would
Yeah.
be a result if I spoke up and said something and somebody wouldn't like me. So there was this flaw was basically an insecurity.
Hmm.
And it got to such a point where really the universe pushed me to speak up, in a situation where it got completely out of control and really affected me on such a personal level that it was affecting me emotionally. And I had no other choice but to speak up. And I think this is what happens to us with our flaws. Um, the flaws we have are either learnt, or we've had an experience and we hold on to that experience and believe it to be true. And then one day a situation will show up where you need to, like I did, speak up, or you need to overcome this flaw, and move on. And so that was one of them. It was like this insecurity about not being able to speak up through fear of not being liked.
Right. I think, for me, when it came to flaws,
Mm,
I got to the point where I got to a certain age where I started to speak up for myself and I started to get past that, those flaws in my life. One of them was to, like you said, was to speak up. And, I was always trying to, please others and make others happy. And when I finally started putting boundaries and I started to say no. or, this is how I like it. This is the way it should be. People did not like that all of a sudden. It was a bad negative effect because it was, people accepted me the way I was before and they liked that conforming person. And then once that person became more independent and started to voice their opinion, all of a sudden, people didn't really respond well to that.
No, it's so interesting. And you know, it's really like you said, it's setting the boundary when suddenly it just becomes too much. We get affected so personally that we have to set a boundary in your situation as you just shared. And a flaw can also be continuously making a mistake. Um,
Yes.
and sometimes we're not even aware of those mistakes that we're doing,
Yes.
right? We keep
Yeah.
and we look back and we think, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Um,
Right.
we keep making these mistakes until one day we recognize that, oh, I keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, but I'm still getting the same result, which is not making me very happy.
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay. I think, as you just shared, you got to a point where you had to set boundaries. I got to a point where I had to speak up. And our flaws are there to help groom us. They're there to help us go to the next level. It is having an imperfection. It is okay not to be okay. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's okay to make mistakes because that's how we learn, as long as we can recognize that we are making that mistake.
I see a lot of people make the same mistakes over and over again because they don't realize their flaws. And sometimes if you bring up something to somebody, they don't respond well. If you see something in somebody and it's a friend or a loved one that you care about and you see them making the same mistake over and over again and you mention that flaw to them, they don't take it in a very good way. And, is there a certain, can we help people like that? Or is there a certain way we need to talk to them to get it across in a more positive way?
Um, I mean, it depends on the relationship, of course, and how close you are. If the closer you are, I think it's more, it's easier to speak up. When you're seeing your loved one go through the same, keep getting frustrated with the same results that they're getting, and you can
Yeah,
offer out support and say, "Hey, I see that this keeps happening to you. Do you want to talk about it?" um,
right.
and open it up for discussion, rather than running in and saying, "Hey, you might want to just think about changing this, and this."
Yeah.
I think that's when people do get affronted and upset with us. So it's like opening up, being caring, compassionate, practicing that empathy when you do notice, and then offering it out to the person. Like, if you see me doing something, I'm really open for you to share with me, um,
Mhm.
and for us to discuss what that is, because I really value it when someone shares with me a mistake I keep making and I haven't maybe seen it. And
Yeah,
and it can be it can be anything as simple as diving into the supermarket and quite often picking fruit and vegetables in a hurry because I'm in a rush and not checking the fruit or vegetables over, and you get home and they're rotten, and you keep doing the same thing and you complain when you bring the fruit home. You're like, why is
yeah,
it rotten? Well, if you'd just chosen and taken time choosing the fruit in the first place, you wouldn't
yeah.
have this problem. So, mistakes can come up in all shapes and sizes, and I think it's great to offer out like a conversation in a kind way with your loved
Right.
one. Yeah.
I think that's true. Now, what do societal standards and expectations influence our perception of our own flaws?
Well, I think as we all know, the majority of society really wants us to accomplish things and get the family, the car, the good job, the investments, and the retirement. These are like key points that we have to hit during our lifetime that are embedded in us. And so we have these very high standards to meet straight out of the womb, basically, from what
Yeah,
society wants and expects of us. And then you've got social media on top of that with all its demands for, perfection, and especially for women. So,
Yes.
with these high values and expectations, what I see in the work I do is a lot of body image issues, anxiety, eating disorders, low self-esteem, low self-worth, self-judgment if people are not meeting these standards. And um, it's so sad because we're still coming from values from like the 1950s,
Yeah.
and life has changed so much, and it doesn't
Oh, yeah.
mean that we're flawed or our next generation is flawed if we're unable to acquire all this wealth and material that society expects of us. um, our society is flawed by still
Yeah.
having these expectations. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to encourage people to really look at what you can accomplish, what's important to you. You know,
Yes.
um, everybody in each age group um, has a certain expectation to meet, like get married, have kids, get the job, get the house, get the two cars. That's a lot of pressure.
Yes, it is. And that's embedded in us from the environment we grew up in, but it doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't change you in any positive way. I was just recently listening to Mel Robbins, and she was talking about how she actually she was striving for that. And then when she finally got it, it was disappointing to her because it wasn't what she thought it was going to be. And it didn't make her happy. She wasn't valued, the way she thought she would be valued. And she was actually taken advantage of, and it was completely opposite of what she imagined because, you know, life is not all about materialistic things. It's about how we feel about ourselves.
It really is. And I do think, interestingly, I think because of these values society has and the pressure it's putting us under, we are reaching a point now where we are coming to exactly what you just said, recognizing, golly, it's not just about all this. It's
Hmm.
about who I am and how I want to live and what I want to choose. Um,
Hmm.
rather than what the expectations are, and it's what does make me happy. It can be a little scary to start breaking that pattern,
Yeah.
um, because everyone else seems to be so caught up in it.
Hmm.
But once you do, there's a peacefulness that comes, an inner calm that comes with it, and it's a what I call a not minding. uh,
Hmm.
a not minding, knowing that okay, you're not going to want to do what everyone else is doing, but get clear on what you do want. And
Yeah.
the more you get clear on that, the less bothered you become that you're not meeting everybody else's expectations.
I like that. What are some of the common challenges people face when they're trying to accept their flaws?
Um, well, first of all, is resistance. No one likes to know that they're flawed because they think there's
Yeah.
something wrong with them. Um, And once you can find the courage to accept the flaw and actually find humor around it and curiosity around it. I mean, I work in an environment where I'm a consultant and an anxiety center. So people are coming in ready to face their flaws, they're ready to grow and transform. When I'm coaching, it's it's very like you have to be very very gentle, very compassionate, very kind when people are trying to accomplish success in their life. And there is flaws that are showing up because they might have the dream of doing something, but they don't quite have the inner emotional world sorted out. Um,
Yes.
and so, one woman might want to be a famous tennis player, for example, but
Yeah.
doesn't play tennis. There's a complete disconnect between the,
Mm,
and so working with them to identify what is something that they find difficult. What is
mhm.
it that they find difficult to accomplish? What stands in your way is often a good way of coming into connecting with your flaws, and then kindness and laughter around, yeah, I have that too, and sharing
Yeah.
like mistakes that you've made and things
Right.
in the past really kind of breaks the ice with the resistance. And then, of course, there's tools to help move through those mistakes, I mean, and flaws that you have, and then helping the person understand the steps they can take to identify why they have this flaw, why they
Mhm.
keep making the mistake, and working on the emotional world around that. Maybe some fear, maybe they keep acting out in the same way because, like again, like we said earlier, there's a fear of not being liked. Um, it's interesting where people do come from with their flaws.
Mhm.
Increasingly, people are accepting. They're
Yeah.
now opening up to, yeah, I have low self-esteem. Yeah, I keep driving myself too hard. And the mistake I keep doing is I keep getting burnt out, but I keep repeating the pattern.
Yeah.
Help me stop the pattern. And we're like, okay. So
Mm.
each one of us has the ability to overcome a flaw and relearn a new pattern and give our brain a new story.
I love that. I love that. What are some of the tools people could probably apply to their lives to help them overcome their flaws?
Yeah, I think being really observant with the patterns in your life. So, what that means is, uh, looking at, there's so many different levels of flaws, um, but looking at a situation that keeps, let's say, not working out for you,
Right.
something that you want, but it just doesn't keep happening.
Yeah.
Um, and so, let's say wealth, and you have perhaps you keep putting your focus on the lack you have in your life
Hmm.
rather than putting your focus on what you do have. Um,
Right.
Maybe you put your focus on comparing yourself with others, and it's a flaw that you have because you feel insecure about yourself or not good enough. So, taking a situation uh,
Hmm.
that's not working out for you and taking a step back from it and
Hmm.
looking at, okay, where do I keep putting my attention? How can
Right.
I change where I put my attention?
Hmm. I love.
And yeah, and how can I make a new choice? What's the opposite of
Hmm.
what I keep doing?
Oh, I like that. And is this something that people should completely be observant and maybe even write in their journals or, or practice every day, do some exercises to help them make it part of their lifestyle? Because I feel like sometimes when we start to try to change bad habits or we start to try to change certain behaviors in our life or do things differently, when we become conscious of it and then we kind of we watch ourselves to try to correct those behaviors. It becomes after a while, it becomes so natural that we don't even think about that we're doing it, and it's actually an improvement that we've made in our lives, and then it becomes so natural that it doesn't even faze us anymore.
Right. And I love the idea of listing things down, writing things down. I mean, um, I love the Alice in Wonderland stories. That
Yeah.
story where she goes down the rabbit hole and her life changes because she was curious to go down the rabbit hole.
Right.
This is where we're all at too. It's like she had all these unimaginable things she would dream for herself every day. So, start by listing maybe six positive, unimaginable things for yourself. What would they be? Um,
Right.
and as you're writing, you've identified, the flaws. Go down the rabbit hole, get curious with this flaw. Um,
Yes.
and what would be one choice today you would like to become more curious about in your life? And so if
Right.
it's wealth, it's like, why does the money not flow? Why is it this? Why is it that? Be curious. Um,
Yeah.
Start examining it. It's like, what is it about myself, my belief system that believes that I can't have?
Yes. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Now,
Mhm.
why do you think some people resist embracing their imperfections?
I think fear. I think maybe just their upbringing. they've been made to believe that, they've got to be perfect. And if they're not, the whole world's going to crumble. And there's a vulnerability. People have a hard time with vulnerability.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree a lot. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah. Mm.
no, I was going to say, I think it has a lot to do with their upbringing and the way they grew up and the different behaviors, in their environment and things that were said to them in their environment. And I think that plays a big role also.
Yeah. I think we are so groomed, as we said earlier, to achieve and accomplish that we don't want to upset people or disappoint.
Hmm.
And someone spells out a flaw or a mistake to us, it can be hard to swallow because we can take it very personally and not
Yeah.
feel that we're good enough. And yet, someone is giving you a golden nugget if they share with you that they're observing something about you.
Yeah.
Such an opportunity to make a change and to grab that and run
Hmm.
with it. It can be tough sitting in the uneasiness of knowing you've done something wrong, you've made a mistake, you've said something out of turn, you've blurted something out, or you've had a negative reaction. But really sit in the discomfort of the negativity because it will help you move along quicker.
Yes.
You'll learn more by doing that, and then you can start practicing not doing that floor anymore.
Right, right. I noticed that a lot of people, do take things personally. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is that, a lot of people will try to give constructive criticism because they care about the person, but the person will take it personally and they'll take it more as an insult than they will a helpful, suggestion.
Yeah, yeah, they can be feel insulted, and then that's up to that person. If that's the way they feel, there's going to be more growth for them to come and to learn,
Mhm.
and we'll know that that will come up again and again until they get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Not being
Very
punished, not being punished at all. It's just a way of helping you grow, you know?
What do you think? Are there any exercises people can do or any strategies besides the ones we mentioned that are very beneficial that could help people, especially if they have thin skin and they're very sensitive and it's hard for them to accept their flaws, even if they acknowledge some of their flaws deep down inside, it's hard for them. They're still in a little bit of denial. It's hard for them to actually change it. 'Cause there's a lot of people I know that, they realize they have certain issues, but it's hard for them to come to terms with it and actually make a change.
Um, well, if it's hard to make a change, they're not willing to grow yet. Um,
Yeah.
if the person's willing to grow and discuss, I always think therapy should be the first option. A coach, therapy, counseling, talking about it, why they feel stuck, to dig deep into what's holding them back. I mean, remember, it's your brain. Your brain is a nice, imagine it like a nice juicy lump of clay, right? That you
Yeah.
can mold on a daily basis. Um, if you can tell your brain anything and you can sculpt the brain with belief patterns and create new neural patterns every day. Um,
Right.
so you're dealing with repetitive activities and routines. And if this person knows that they've got the flaws and they're still having a hard time making the change, trying to do one new thing on a daily basis could help the brain start to make a change. So, practicing maybe some meditation for five
Right.
minutes every day, maybe going for a walk for 5, 10 minutes every day. So, the brain and body get used to a new activity, a
Right.
new routine that you do on a daily basis can then open you up to be more accepting and perhaps make some changes with the flaws.
I like that a lot. Now, what are some of the key benefits of being okay with your flaws in terms of mental health and well-being?
Well, what I've seen over the years, I mean, I've been in this a long time, over 30 years now, actually. And my perception of the benefits of seeing your flaws is humor. Really, a lot of humor and being able to laugh at yourself. in a very
Yeah.
kind way. That's a big benefit. And I also see, and also myself, you look back on your life and you get to see what you were able to do and move away from or move on from your flaws and how your life was and how
Yeah.
life is now. And you have to
Yeah.
remember, we change every day. We never stay the same. Things change
Right.
constantly for us. So when you look back, the benefit is like, look at where I was and where I am today. I was
Yeah.
very different when I was 20 compared to how I am now. And
Yeah.
that's the benefit of working through the mistakes, the flaws, being raw, being honest with yourself, sense of humor, and just saying, I'm not perfect. I'm never going
Mm-hmm.
to be perfect.
Yeah.
Certainly not broken, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
perfect, and that's okay. And just really embracing and loving yourself for those flaws. They make
Right.
you. That's your personality.
Yeah, and I think that's, a wonderful thing. It makes you, that's your personality.
Mm.
It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have flaws. We all have flaws. If it's hurting us, it's causing us to be stuck, or if it's causing any type of negative things in our lives, then it's time to make a change. But we all have flaws, and we learn from our flaws, and then we grow from them too. We become better people from them.
It is. And, our partners have got flaws, our kids have got flaws, our parents have got flaws, and you love them for it still, right? So love yourself.
Exactly, exactly. Now, how does self-acceptance impact your relationships with others?
So, I mean, it's huge. It helps you really to, once you accept yourself with flaws, you'll accept others with their flaws, and you won't be so critical and judgmental because, we can hardly throw stones at others when we're also flawed.
Yeah.
And um, I think self-acceptance, self-forgiveness is a really fabulous way of building really strong relationships, and loving unconditionally.
Hmm.
There's we especially in romantic relationships, we put so much on the other person. We expect them to meet our needs in so many different ways. And if we're not meeting those needs ourselves, how can we expect others to fill those needs for us?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's a big important factor is that we need to love ourselves unconditionally. We need to love others unconditionally. And we need to be able to accept their flaws and accept our own flaws.
Yeah, it's filling your own cup. You got to be able to fill your cup and offer to fill theirs and them fill yours. It's a beautiful dance between um you and the relationships in your world. And there's going to be times when you're tired and you can't be bothered and you're fed up.
Yeah.
There's life, you're going to and take that moment, when you're tired, fed up, and you don't want to talk to them about their issues or their problems, and you need time for yourself, and you're filling your cup at that point, and that's okay.
Yes.
There's going to be times when they really annoy you, and you're going to say,
Mhm.
this is really annoying me right now, and that tells you that you're really getting triggered, and there's some things to work on here.
100%. Now,
Mm.
what advice would you give someone who feels overwhelmed by their flaws or struggles with self-criticism?
Um, I would start with one key overriding flaw that's getting in your way. I mean, we've all got, if you sat down now, you could probably list at least 100 flaws.
Oh,
Um,
100 flaws
at least
plus.
plus, plus. Um, and start with one, put the others on the shelf. Don't keep focusing on them because again, it's that need for perfection. It's like we're overcorrecting ourselves, and then
Mhm.
overcorrecting ourselves then leads to stress and anxiety and burnout. So take one flaw that you'd like to work on and make that your go-to place and let the others just run around, do what they need to do, notice them, observe them, and get on with your life. Um, it's taking one and then doing what we just shared earlier in terms of dealing with it. And you might say, I'm going to do coaching counseling to find some help with this. But that need to, well, that feeling overwhelmed with so many flaws, that's an underlying need for perfection again.
And I see so many people struggle because they try to be perfectionists, but perfection doesn't exist, but yet they try to strive for it.
Yeah, and it's perfectionism is fear of making a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's one big circle. So it, you know, and I stop looking at social media, stop looking at what society's demanding of you. Society in of itself is flawed. Um,
Mhm.
this need of intense values that we're supposed to accomplish. I mean, I believe that there is a need for structure in our lives for sure,
Mhm.
um, and discipline. But, at the same time, done in a way that's doable, achievable.
Oh, 100%. Now, how can friends and family or counselors support someone in their journey for self-acceptance?
I think kindness, compassion, listening is
Mhm.
important, not jumping in to give advice and guidance where it's not wanted.
Yeah. I see that a lot of times too. I see a lot of people, they have to jump in and give their opinions. And I see that a lot in families too. They think they know the person so well and they really don't. They just know the specific things, but they don't know a lot of the intimate or certain secrets or certain things that they're not going to share with their family members. And yet, but their family members are one, two, three to give their opinions and that can be very frustrating for the individual, I think. I've learned over the years if people don't ask for your opinion, then they really don't want your opinion. And sometimes it's better just to hold back until someone asks you for help.
Totally. It's and I mean families it's so different to friendships. We don't choose our family, and I often believe that we are in our family for a reason to learn so much about ourselves. But it's that fine line by standing back and letting that person evolve, and when they need help, being there and available.
Mhm.
Then there are times when you need to make an intervention, uh,
Right.
and it's offering out that intervention to say, hey, would you like some help with this
Yeah.
situation? And it's like, no, 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 no. You're like, okay, all right. And you've done your piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, and families can be so tightly wired together, and in each other's face and pockets and business,
Mhm.
um, and critical and judgmental and all those amazing things that we can learn from each other. But I do think holding space for them is the most important piece.
Yes, I agree. Now, as a coach and a therapist and author, what is the most common flaw or self criticism you've encountered among your clients?
Um, it still never ceases to amaze me, especially in this day and age and how far women have come. And I often wonder still, I'm like, how can this be? It really is not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
It's just shocking to me. Um, I think maybe it's because I've been doing this for a long time now that and done a lot of work on myself and then helped a lot of women. I mean thousands of women actually. But when a woman comes to me and she may have reached her pinnacle of her career, she may be deciding on what her next steps are, a bit lost about what that direction is. um, it's that, am I good enough? And yet she could be a CEO of a company and is
Yeah.
still running circles to please people. It's astonishing to me.
How do you help them refrain from their perspectives to foster a self-acceptance?
I help them look at what they've accomplished, and why that was important to them, and what their values were behind that, and help remind them, by joining the dots together of their accomplishments and what they're good at and their strengths, over the years, to help them see how they've arrived at where they've arrived. Um, in fairness, a lot of times women do get lost in the business and success. They do lose sight of who they are. So
Yeah.
it's reconnecting them with that, you know, divine feminine as they call part of themselves, that strong warrior type woman, but also the compassionate side that might have got lost on the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people are put in situations where they're high achieving women, they're so involved with having to be a leader, having to be in control of things, having to show a certain type of personality so they are respected among their employees or among the people they work with, that sometimes their inner self gets repressed and they lose connection with that person.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's when the burnout starts and the depression
Hmm.
because they've aligned themselves too much with and we've talked about this before, the male paradigm of working, where you
Yes.
have to give up everything to achieve a success. Whereas now we're looking at women not doing that and working in line with their values and feeling fulfillment and still being with their community, family, and friends.
I like that. Now, how can we reframe the concept of flaws as unique traits that contribute to our individuality? Like, so how can how can we reframe flaws and make it a beautiful part of us, instead of looking at it in a negative way and saying, these are my flaws, I'm not perfect, I'm this, I'm that. But as we were talking earlier, how can we just learn to accept it as part of us? This is who we are. It's okay. It makes me more beautiful. It makes me me, and we can work on our flaws, but we don't have to, stop ourselves and feel and make ourselves feel negative or put ourselves in the ground because we have flaws. Because everybody has flaws. How can we turn it into a positive and say, this is part of my character?
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that. As I work with women, and myself, I say to think of yourself like a diamond
Hmm.
and all the facets that make up this diamond, right? And those flaws are the facets of you. They're part of you that make
Yeah,
you shine, that make you brilliant.
right,
And for sure, you might swap that flaw out for another one at some point, or let that flaw go, and something else is going to pop up. But you're
right,
constantly polishing these beautiful facets of you.
right.
You are this diamond. These flaws are part of you,
Mhm.
and they're part of your roadmap of life.
Yes.
They're here to help you grow, and
Hmm.
they're like a compass, um,
Yes.
to give you direction so that you can keep moving and growing and shifting and changing into the person who you are meant to be.
I like that a lot. And it makes us into the person we are meant to be. And I think that's how people have to look at it. That's a beautiful sentence because, instead of looking at it negative, it makes us into the person that we were meant to be. And, when we think about that, when we think about how it defines us, it brings us character, it makes us who we are, and it makes us the person that people who really care about us love so much about us, and that helps a lot. I really think that's a great way to, reset your mindset and really look at it in a different perspective. Now, in your opinion, how can society promote a healthier acceptance of flaws or imperfections?
I think social media, I think each of us posting on social media about, hey, look what I did today. Look how I messed up, and laughing about it. Um, by being more in your creativity. So, like, if you love wearing orange and pink together, wear orange and pink,
Right.
this showing expression of yourself and who you really are. And showing up with your family and friends and laughing and say, you never guess what I happened to me today, or what I said in the middle of a meeting. It gives people permission to do the same, and to discuss it. So there's more of an openness that comes and a general acceptance that, not being okay is okay.
Right.
And it's what makes us, and not minding it. So I think through discussion and at work and social media and posting, showing people how you're learning through your mistakes, being
Right.
being vulnerable.
Yes, yes. And I'll mention again, I was going through YouTube this morning and Mel Robbins came up. So I popped on it,
Yeah.
and it was like I had such a terrible day. And I thought to myself, you know what? I like that because it was real. We
Yeah.
all have those days, and
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes on social media, a lot of times actually, people try to put this perfect life, and they try to, the people who show them, they show that they have this perfect life are the people usually that are all over the place and they don't have a perfect life or they don't have a perfect marriage or they don't have a perfect job. But they want to prove it to society. And I know when I was working in the media and I was working in TV, these people, like these actresses and actors would come in and people and they would be very far from perfect. But after 4 hours of working on them, they look perfect. But they weren't perfect when they walked through the doors. They were far from it. You wouldn't even recognize them if you saw them.
Yeah.
And it's all presentation, and that's what people who look at social media have to realize that who you're looking at and what they're saying is not necessarily true. They're in the entertainment field, all these influencers, all these movie stars, all these people, their job is to act, their job is to entertain, their job is to convince, and that's what they're doing. It's that's their job. And so you have to look at it that sense. And nobody is perfect. Nobody has the perfect life. We all have flaws. We have flaws in our relationships. We have flaws within ourselves. We have flaws at work. It's a whole thing. Flaws surround us. It's just how we view it, how we accept it, how we live with it, and how we decide to change the things that we don't want to live with.
Well said. Absolutely agree. Well said. And I do think it's having that piece when you are looking around at social media, TV, whatever you're watching, is to have that recognition going in your brain rather than being like a sheep and a follower and absorbing everything and thinking, oh, this must be how it is. And
Mhm.
I think in answer to one of your other questions, actually, that's what society can start doing. It can start being more discerning about
Yeah.
what it's watching and questioning it.
Right, 100%. Now, what about your future aspirations and spreading awareness about the importance of self-acceptance? Do you have in the future plans?
Well, I'm working on my book called Finding Your Queen, which is about self-acceptance and living raw, and doing a series of workshops based on that too, for women. And continuing my Redefine Yourself programs, which is 6-month masterminds helping women to come in to find their direction again and reconnect with who they are. So I'm moving into that next level of working in master classes with women, to as groups and one-on-one coaching to help them really start reconnecting, rebuilding values, and bringing them back to center, back to home, if you like, finding new directions that they can build out, and working with them closely to help overcome any fears or insecurities they have around their next steps. So I'm very excited. I love doing this. Yeah.
Now, I know you have a big event coming up. You're getting everything prepared and it's going to be near in the future. Can you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, well, this is one of the 6-month master classes where I'm working with opening it up to a group of women, um, 10, 12 women, or spaces are limited, women who've reached a point in their careers where they're feeling like dissatisfied. This is this it? What's my next step, or who am I now? And helping them move through a 6-month process of group coaching and one-on-one coaching with me to help them find that next step. And some of that will be self acceptance, some of that will be working on flaws, and emotional well being, as well as practical coaching in okay, what are these next steps? Who are you? What's your purpose? What do you want to bring to the world? What do you want to fulfill you now? And working with them very closely to help them find that. They're not going to be left on their own. I'm going to be inputting quite a lot with them.
Oh,
So yeah, so by the time they finish, they're going to have a very nice clear direction of the next steps and tools and patterns that they're breaking of behavior, and time to meditate in the groups, time to reflect as women together and be open and vulnerable and honest. So yeah, that begins at the end of May.
I love that. So, when can people start signing up for that? When will they have the opportunity and where can they go to sign up for it?
So basically, they can go to my nicolasalter.com website. They can reach out to me through Instagram at Nicola Salter. And they can reach me at my email, which is salternicola@gmail.com. And you know, basically message me, and then we'll set up a discovery call to find out if this is a fit for you. I want to run through it with you to see where you're at in your life, before you decide to come on the masterclass. And then we go from there in terms of signing up. It's very affordable. I want to make sure it is affordable for everyone. And I just want you to commit to um, the time. It's 4 hours a month, 5 hours a month, actually.
Oh, I love that. And it's so important. You'd be surprised when you spend just a little bit of time, each week, and focusing on something specific that you need, a little help with, after a certain amount of time, you'll see a huge difference. I've done master classes and I've done different events, and you just devoting a short period of time each week to that specific topic, to that specific area in your life you want to improve. After a short period of time, you start noticing a lot of changes. And just by making small little tweaks and then continue it and staying consistent and then learning new different techniques and strategies and tools and then implementing them in your life, what a
Mhm.
difference it makes. Because sometimes we don't think of these things ourselves. And when people bring it up and they suggest it and then you imply it, you implement it into your own life, wow, it's powerful.
It's very powerful, and we're of course going to be very fortunate to have you on board as a guest speaker. So I am really excited about having you here to share your wisdom and your journey and how you've implemented into your business and your personal growth, some tools and methods that have helped you grow. And of course, we're going to have all your amazing wisdom and experience from your business. And I hope that people are going to join us, women are going to join us, because you're right, that spending that time each week, little bite-sized nuggets of change, is what helps bring about the change, and the brain gets used to this new, routine, this daily activity. So if women are looking to make a change for themselves, step up into something that fulfills them more, a new direction, or even, they just want to recenter and reconnect and learn some things that are outside of work that they could use in their personal lives, this would be a great masterclass for you.
I think that something like this is wonderful because I think as a high achiever, as a person who is, constantly doing things, you tend to sometimes lose track and you pull away from the important things and you lose yourself sometimes and then you have to pull yourself back and it's taking time out for yourself that gets you back to where you were and then being able to consistently learn new methods, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. I think that people should always consistently, implement different ways of doing things, different ways of learning, different ways of, adding new valuable things into their life. It's a consistent process. I think, everybody can learn something. There's never enough of time in life to, we consistently need to continue learning. Every day should be a new day to try to learn something new and then and grow from it. I think it's very important.
I do too. Thank you for that. I mean, I think when we truly get at a crossroads in life and we feel stuck and you've worked really hard and you've achieved success and you've created a life that looks good on paper, but internally you know that there's more and you're not quite sure what that is. It's important to start looking at how can I gain clarity on this? How can I move out of being stuck? And
Right.
taking the time to learn and to own your power basically, and confidence, and redefine yourself. I've just pulled up my landing page. It's, if people want to come to this class, it's the redefine yourself masterclass.com.
Okay.
That's the actual landing page they need to go on to. So it's the redefine yourself masterclass.com. And then there you can find out more about this, and then you can also sign up for a discovery call with me. And I'm delighted to talk to anyone who's just at a crossroads, and talk about where they're at. I mean, let's have a conversation.
Right. And they can find you again at your website if they want to
Yeah.
contact. to talk to you or, look into other services, look into your master classes, whatever they need, they can find you on your site.
Yeah, nicolasalter.com. So Salter is Salter. And I'd be delighted to talk to anyone who's feeling stuck right now. So give me a call if it feels like a fit for you.
Now, if we had to take today's conversation and you want to really emphasize on some important factors, what are some of the things you'd like to emphasize today?
Um, we've talked about self-acceptance, and that is the number one key in terms of building better relationships with yourself as well as others. Um, Self-growth is something that isn't just for people who've got time to do it. um, Something you can do every day yourself and is such a great investment
Mhm.
um, because of the benefits it's going to bring you, the changes it will bring in your life that you're going to see just by making one or two new choices. Um, think of yourself as the diamond. Think of yourself with all these different parts, these flaws that make up you, all right? Flaws that make you who you are today. And run with them, have
Yeah.
fun with them. Be like Alice in Wonderland, be curious.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, this has been amazing, Nicola. I really enjoyed your time. I can't wait to be a part of your masterclass. I can't wait to just even observe it and learn from others too, because it's something that I think women really need, and in our lives is that we need to learn how to accept our flaws. We need to learn how to love ourselves. We need to learn how to accept ourselves. We need to learn how to be able to grow and be able to really be the best we could possibly be. And we shouldn't really be hard on ourselves because, we just need to do the best we can, and that's all we can do, and really accept that.
Yeah, please accept that whatever you're doing now is the best that you can do. And make sure you're not comparing yourself with others
Yes.
and love yourself unconditionally. And as you do, your relationships are going to flourish because you're going to love other people unconditionally too.
Yes, 100%. I love it. I love it. And I love you, Nicole. You're amazing.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you so much for today. It's been amazing.
It's been amazing for me too. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Take care of yourself. See you soon.
See you soon.